I am Dr. Christopher Long. I am the president of Family Residences and Essential Enterprises, which is a multi-service organization that proudly supports both counties here on Long Island, both Nassau and Suffolk, and we have recently expanded into New York City as well. I have been working in the health and human services industry for over 25 years, very proudly, in a variety of different management, administrative, and direct service roles, and have had the privilege of working with people that are differently abled and have had a long career of committing myself to building a continuum of supports and services to help those that are in need of support. Stop the Bounce was inspired by my own journey once I had found out that there were close to 500,000 children in foster care across the United States, and having had worked in the health and human services industry for so long, I felt that I found myself speaking about this whole concept of adoption, and I had explored a lot of different options for myself: international adoption, domestic adoption, co-parenting, etc. And I realized that foster care, although was certainly an option that many people discouraged me from considering, I felt that I needed to explore. And once I had the opportunity to meet children that were in foster care, it really inspired me to become more involved. And although I never thought that I would be the father of 5 children, I began my journey with the thought of perhaps mentoring children, and it led me to building my own family, and today I'm the proud dad of 5 young boys. It was an emotionally riveting journey, quite honestly, but I used each of their experiences to tell a story about children that enter the foster care system and bounce from home to home. And I found that fragmentation in their own personal journeys really created so many barriers to them living successful and happy lives. So I thought that this was really a larger issue than just an issue affecting my 5 boys. And I thought that it were really important for us to begin a campaign, if you will, to raise awareness and to promote this concept of creating adoptive families and being able to connect children that have been in foster care for long periods of time with stable, permanent environments that we often refer to as forever families. Our hope is that we begin a discussion, quite honestly, and to raise awareness and to educate the larger community that foster care is a great option for families to consider when wanting to build their own families. And what I have learned is that biology has little to do with the creation of a family, and this is a perfect example of that. Well, I was afraid, quite honestly, of what the transition would be like for young people entering an environment that was new to them. And although I knew that many of my now children had experienced multiple environments, my thought was I really needed to create a very specific environment to allow it to be a comfortable, nurturing, loving home. So I was a little frightened by the idea of what it meant to create that. So I spent a lot of time with my children and wanting to make sure that it safely accommodated their needs. And now today, we have built a very tight-knit family that I'm very proud of. It's, let me see, I can use some very descriptive adjectives. It's certainly exciting. It's certainly, every day is an unpredictable one. But interestingly enough, they're very well connected. So I think that we've overcome tremendous obstacles. To know that it's a viable option Here in New York State, there are many resources available to families considering adoption, both on Long Island and New York City and the greater New York State area, and quite honestly across the nation. This book, I believe, would be a great resource for families, for teachers, and for the larger community to understand what the journey is like, to better prepare their environments, and to do direct outreach to young people. And even if families are not interested in adoption, perhaps foster care is another consideration, because foster care families we equally value, and because they often build the bridge to permanent homes. And or just to open your heart to the concept of mentoring a young person in foster care that is on this journey. Because I believe when you provide a circle of support, it creates a sense of stability, even if it isn't necessarily a permanent home environment, but people to relate to and people to connect to and people to speak to that are impartial, that have not been a part of their past, but can help them build avenues of opportunity for the future. I hope that each of them is aligned in their future with what's most important to them. And each of them are in their own place. So I kind of often think about what the future holds for them. And my youngest will be 9 next week. And I have 2 boys that are 15, one that is soon to be 17 and one that's 18 graduating from high school. So I have them at different phases in life, but we certainly have a very rambunctious and interesting home nonetheless. And we are preparing now, although many may consider them young, we're preparing now for their future. So it's really about making sure that their future plan is aligned with their own personal interests. And that's really what we're doing, is creating a path that will lead them to a successful and happy life. We just want everyone to consider opening their hearts and minds to the concept of providing an adoptive home, a permanent resource for the so many kids that are in care across the United States. So be a part of our campaign and help us stop the mats.